Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's New York State Paid Family Leave webinar for the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. I'm Jen Donovan, here with Tiffany Battles from the Board's Public Information Office. Today we will provide you with an overview of paid family leave, information on your role in the process, and point you to resources that will help you support your patients and their families. We ask you to please keep your phone lines muted as we will be using the chat feature to receive your questions today. To access the chat feature, hover over the WebEx tab at the top of your screen and click on Chat. We welcome you to enter your questions in the chat box at any time. However, please note we will be addressing all questions at the end of the presentation. Courtney Valley from the Board's Office of General Counsel is also here to help answer your questions. If there are any questions we don't get to in our allotted time today, or if you think of something after the session ends, we will be providing you with additional resources at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. I will now pass it over to Tiffany for today's presentation.
Thank you, Jen, and hello, everyone. Today we'll be sharing important information with you regarding New York State's paid family leave. As obstetricians and gynecologists, you not only play a role in increasing awareness of this benefit with your patients, but you also play a role in certifying a need for leave when a patient requests paid family leave to bond with your new baby, or when an employee requests paid family leave to care for your patient. Today we want to take some time to give you the tools and information you need to help your patients and their families learn more about paid family leave. The more you understand about the benefit, the better you'll be able to assist and answer any questions from them. In today's presentation, we'll cover why we need paid family leave, important health outcomes that have been shown with having paid leave. We'll discuss your role as healthcare providers. We'll cover some basics you need to know, including the 3 uses of paid family leave, an overview of the benefits and who is eligible. We'll discuss the certification process and what you need to know. We'll highlight paid family leave and other benefits. We'll discuss how to continue getting the word out. We'll point you to some helpful resources, and we will leave time at the end for questions. So let's get started. Why do we need paid family leave? For too long, employees have struggled to maintain their jobs when they needed to care for a loved one during a specific time of need, whether that was welcoming a new baby, caring for a family member with a serious health condition, or dealing with family pressures when a spouse, domestic partner, child, or parent is deployed abroad on active military service. These pressures can affect job performance and spill over into the workplace. Research shows that paid leave increases the likelihood that employees will return to work, which increases retention and ultimately lowers costs for employers. So New York took action. Governor Cuomo worked to develop the strongest and most comprehensive paid family leave in the nation. And in April 2016, paid family leave was signed into law. With paid family leave, New Yorkers no longer have to choose between caring for their loved ones and their jobs, because we now have insurance to help in these critical times. So how does having paid leave to care for a loved one help improve health outcomes? Paid leave for bonding has shown to have a number of health benefits for both parents and children. New mothers who took paid leave breastfed twice as long, increasing from a median of 5 weeks for all moms to 11 weeks for mothers in high-paying jobs, and 9 weeks for those in lower-paying jobs. Parents have stronger parent-child bonding. Fathers who took paternity leave of 10 days or longer were more involved with their children and with child care activities than men who took no leave. Women who had more generous maternity leave policy were 18% less likely to suffer from depression 30 years later when they were 50 or older. And having access to paid parental leave can reduce infant mortality by as much as 10%. Having access to paid leave to care for a loved one is important for a number of reasons. Studies have shown that it increases quality of care in knowing a loved one is getting excellent care from their family member. It improves pediatric, medical, and surgical experiences and better management of chronic diseases. It increases personal growth, meaning, and purpose for a caretaker. Hospitalized loved ones who are cared for by a family member may have shorter length hospital stays, less readmissions, and emergency room use. And while offering paid leave did not completely eliminate financial worries of taking time from work, it does reduce caregiver stress by providing economic support to spend more time with loved ones in times of need without risking financial security. As healthcare providers, you play a critical role in educating your parents and their families about New York State's paid family leave, determining if your patient with a serious health condition is in need of family care and helping them receive the support they need, and providing necessary certification or supporting documentation to your patients who may in turn provide it to their family member who is employed and wishes to care for the patient as a result of their serious health condition. Here is a list of all healthcare providers acting within their scope of practice who may complete the necessary supporting documentation for paid family leave. Healthcare providers outside of New York, including outside the United States, who are certifying that an employee's family member has a serious health condition must have a valid professional license in the state or country where they practice. Healthcare providers may complete the healthcare provider certification in their own language. While the January 1 launch is well behind us, we know that many providers still have questions. To help you help your patients understand the benefits, let's begin with the basics of paid family leave. Paid family leave is insurance, fully funded by employees through a small weekly payroll contribution. The employee contribution rate is set every year to match the cost of coverage, and employers use the employee contributions to pay the insurance premium. As of January 1st, 2018, paid family leave provides job-protected, paid time off so employees can bond with a newly born, adopted, or fostered child, care for a family member with a serious health condition, or assist loved ones when a spouse, domestic partner, child, or parent is called to active military service abroad. Let's take a closer look at these three uses of paid family leave. We'll start with bonding leave. Paid family leave provides both parents time to bond with a new child within the first 12 months of the birth, adoption, or foster placement of the child. Parents who work for different employers can take paid family leave at the same time to bond with the same child. Parents who work for the same employer can also take paid family leave at the same time to bond with the same child, unless their employer prohibits it. Otherwise, they can take leave separately over the first 12 months following the child's birth, adoption, or foster placement. It's important to note that expectant mothers cannot take paid family leave for their own pregnancy. They can take it after the baby is born because paid family leave is only used to care for family members. Here, that means to bond with a newborn infant or newly adopted or fostered child. Paid family leave is also available to care for a family member with a serious health condition. A serious health condition is defined in part as an illness, injury, or condition that requires either inpatient care in a hospice, hospital, or residential health facility, or continuing treatment or supervision by a healthcare provider. Employees can take time off to care for a sick spouse, domestic partner, child, stepchild, parent, parent-in-law, step-parent, grandparent, and grandchild. To clarify, domestic partner is defined broadly under the paid family leave law. It can include people who are not related by blood and are dependent on one another for support. For example, an employee could prove that they are in a domestic partnership by showing that they own property together or have children in common. A legal relationship is not necessary. It's important to note that it doesn't matter if these family members live outside of New York State or even outside of the country. Employees can take paid family leave to care for their family member as long as they are within close and continuing proximity. In other words, present at the same location as the family member they're caring for during the majority of the paid family leave period. This includes travel for the purpose of securing medication, to arrange care for their family member, providing emotional support or visitation, and other activities related to providing care. The following are examples of what may qualify for caring for a family member with a serious health condition. An employee's daughter, your patient, just had a cesarean and needs help as she recuperates at home. An employee's spouse, your patient, was diagnosed with preeclampsia and needs support at home while on bed rest. An employee's parent, or your patient, had a fibroid removed and is in the hospital recovering. These are situations that may qualify for paid family leave and may be certified by you as the healthcare provider if you believe they constitute a serious health condition. The insurance carrier will make the final determination as to whether such conditions qualify for paid family leave. The third type of leave is for assistance during a military deployment abroad. Paid family leave benefits are available when an employee has a spouse, child, domestic partner, or parent on active service abroad, or who has been notified of an impending call or order of active service abroad and family assistance is needed. Eligibility for paid family leave for an active service deployment abroad is the same as the military provisions of the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. There are a number of instances where paid family leave will help, shown here. Now let's take a look at the specific benefits available to employees under paid family leave. Paid family leave provides time-off benefits, which will be phased in over a 4-year period that began January 1st, 2018. In 2019, eligible employees can take up to 10 weeks of paid family leave. By 2021, eligible employees will be able to take up to 12 weeks of paid family leave. Employees can take this time off all at once or intermittently, but it must always be in full-day increments. Paid family leave also provides wage benefits that phase in over the same 4-year period. In 2019, eligible employees can receive 55% of their average weekly wage, capped at 55% of the New York State average weekly wage. The rate rises until 2021 when paid family leave benefits will reach 67% of an employee's average weekly wage, capped at 67% of the New York State average weekly wage. An employee's average weekly wage is based on their last 8 weeks of pay prior to taking paid family leave. The New York State average weekly wage for 2019 is about $1,357 per week, equaling $70,569 annually. In addition to paid time off, New York's paid family leave also has strong employee protections. Employees are guaranteed to return to the same or comparable job after taking paid family leave. A comparable job is defined as a position with comparable employment benefits, pay, and other terms and conditions of employment. Employees are guaranteed continuation of health insurance on the same terms as if they continued to work while out on paid family leave. If an employee contributes to the cost of their health insurance, they must continue paying their portion of the premium while on leave. And employees are also guaranteed protection from discrimination and retaliation. Requesting or taking paid family leave cannot be held against them. Now that we've covered the types of leave and benefits, let's discuss who is eligible to take paid family leave. Most private employers with 1 or more employees are required to have paid family leave insurance for their employees. Public employers may opt into the program. Employees of public employers who are represented by a union may be covered if paid family leave is collectively bargained. For covered employees, eligibility for taking paid family leave depends on meeting specific requirements for the amount of time employees have worked for their employer. Full-time employees who regularly work 20 or more hours per week are eligible for paid family leave after 26 consecutive weeks of employment with the same employer. Part-time employees who work a regular schedule of less than 20 hours per week are eligible after working 175 days, which do not need to be consecutive. Citizenship and immigration status is not a factor in employee eligibility. Now, let's discuss your role as a healthcare provider in paid family leave for bonding with a new child. In order to request paid family leave for bonding with a new child, your patient will need to provide supporting documentation, which can be a copy of their child's birth certificate, if available, or an original copy of a healthcare provider certification of birth in the form of a letter. This letter must include the birth parent's name, the expected due date for the child's birth or the actual date of the child's birth, the physician or provider's name, address, and phone number, and medical credentials. Information on the letterhead may be sufficient. A healthcare provider may be asked to provide documentation to a parent other than the birth parent, documenting the pregnancy or birth that includes the birth parent's name and the child's due date or birth date. If the parent is someone other than the birth parent, they would need a copy of the child's birth certificate, if available, naming them as second parent, or a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, Form LDSS-4418, or a court order of filiation, or same documentation as birth parent and a second document verifying relationship to the birth parent, which can be a marriage certificate, civil union, or domestic partner document. Here's an example of your role when your patient needs to obtain the bonding certification letter from you in order to submit their request for paid family leave to bond with their newborn. Step 1, the patient requests a letter from you as the healthcare provider in order to submit her request for paid family leave for bonding. Step 2, you complete the letter including all necessary information and return it to your patient. Step 3, your patient then attaches this letter with the other request forms for paid family leave and submits the completed request to her employer's insurance carrier. Step 4, her employer's insurance carrier pays the benefit or denies the request within 18 calendar days of receiving the completed request or the first day of leave, whichever is later. If your patient is requesting paid family leave to bond with an adopted or foster child, no action is required from you as the healthcare provider. Now let's discuss the healthcare provider's role in paid family leave for family care. If your patient's family member, or the employee, requests to take paid family leave to care for your patient due to their serious health condition, you will need to complete certification confirming your patient's serious health condition and need for family care. First, your patient or their authorized representative must complete a form called the Release of Personal Health Information, or Form PFL-4. This form is designed to be compliant with HIPAA and gives a licensed healthcare provider permission to release necessary information about the patient's serious health condition and need for care. The patient or their authorized representative will provide Form PFL-4 to you as the provider to keep on file for your records. If your patient can't fill out this form on their own and has their authorized representative do it, the authorized representative must attach a copy of legal documentation when submitting the form to the healthcare provider. Legal documentation of authorization may include a healthcare proxy or power of attorney to show they are allowed to sign on the patient's behalf. Documentation of authorization is not required when a parent is signing on behalf of a minor child. How long is the release of personal health information valid for? Healthcare providers should keep a copy of the patient's Release of Personal Health Information, or Form PFL-4, on file. The form will be valid for 1 year or less if the patient revokes it. Once the healthcare provider receives the release of personal health information, the family member of their patient will provide them with another form titled Healthcare Provider Certification of a Family Member with a Serious Health Condition, Form PFL-4. The family member of the patient must first complete the employee section of Form PFL-4 before giving the form to the patient's healthcare provider to complete. The healthcare provider must complete all applicable requested information on Form PFL-4 unless noted as optional. Question 2 asks for the ICD-10 code. This is recommended but not required. Questions 4 through 7 ask for the approximate dates on which the patient's serious health condition commenced and an estimate of the frequency and duration of the leave required to care for the patient. This includes whether the need for care is continuing or on an intermittent basis. This section of Form PFL-4 requests the following information from the licensed healthcare provider: name, address, telephone number, and email address, type of medical practice or specialization, and state of license and license number. Once this information is captured, the licensed healthcare provider would sign and date Form PFL-4 and return it to their patient or their authorized representative. Licensed healthcare providers must fully and completely answer their portion of Form PFL-4 in order for the client's family member to take paid family leave to care for them. Employees must submit Form PFL-4 to their employer's paid family leave insurance carrier within 30 days of the start of their leave or risk losing paid family leave benefits. So timely completion of this form by the licensed healthcare provider is critical. Can healthcare providers refuse to complete the certification? Yes. Healthcare providers can decline to complete Form PFL-4 if they believe the health condition is not a qualifying serious health condition as defined in the paid family leave law. For example, they may refuse to complete the form if they believe that the patient's health condition is not serious and would not require care from the family member requesting leave. They can also refuse to provide certification for family care when the patient's family member requesting leave is the perpetrator of domestic violence or child abuse against the patient. For example, if a patient has disclosed that injuries they have were the result of domestic violence perpetrated by their family member who is the employee requesting leave, a healthcare provider may refuse to complete certification for that family member. Although healthcare providers can decline completing the certification form if they believe leave is not warranted, failure to complete the certification may prevent the individual from taking paid family leave. Putting this all together, here is an example of the healthcare provider's role in providing the certification needed by the employee to submit their request for paid family leave. Step 1. Your patient first completes the Release of Personal Health Information, Form PFL-3, and submits this form along with the Certification for Care of Family Member with Serious Health Condition, Form PFL-4, which is completed by the patient's family member and given to you as the healthcare provider. Step 2. You would keep Form PFL-3 on file for your records and complete your portion of Form PFL-4. You would then return Form PFL-4 to your patient or their authorized representative. Step 3. The patient then gives the completed Form PFL-4 to their family member who is the employee requesting leave. Step 4. Your patient's family member submits the completed Form PFL-4 to their employer's paid family leave insurance carrier. In most cases, the insurance carrier must pay or deny the request within 18 calendar days of receiving the completed request or the first day of the start of leave, whichever is later. There are a few frequently asked questions about paid family leave and other leave policies that may be helpful for you to know. How are paid family leave and FMLA similar? There are several similarities between New York's paid family leave and the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act. Both provide leave for bonding with a child, caring for a family member with a serious health condition, and assisting when a family member is deployed abroad on active military service. Employees are also guaranteed that they'll return to the same or a similar position, and their health insurance shall continue on the same terms as if the employee has continued to work. If employees contribute to the cost of their health insurance, they must continue to pay their portion of the premium cost while on leave. If PFL and FMLA run concurrently, the certification of leaves occur separately. This is not directly addressed in the law and regulations. Whether or not the two leaves can be certified on the same form may depend on the insurance carrier's business processes as well as an employer's practice as to how it designates leave under FMLA. The employee seeking leave should be able to tell whether both forms are necessary. But there are a number of key differences. Paid family leave is paid, FMLA is not paid. All private employers will carry paid family leave insurance. FMLA does not include insurance, and it has a 50-employee threshold for eligibility. The length of time an employee must work is different. In paid family leave, an employee who regularly works 20 or more hours a week must be employment for 26 consecutive weeks for that employer. And an employee who regularly works fewer than 20 hours per week must work 175 days for the same employer, which do not need to be consecutive. For FMLA, employees must have worked for a full year and 1,250 hours in the last 52 weeks to qualify. The biggest distinction may be that under New York's paid family leave, an employee is taking leave to care for someone else, not for their own health condition. FMLA allows employees leave for their own health condition. PFL is only taken in full-day increments. FMLA may be taken hourly. Also, under PFL, employees do not need to use other paid time off first. What about paid family leave and other types of leave? Employees cannot collect short-term disability and paid family leave benefits for the same period of time. A birth mother, for example, can take short-term disability if she qualifies and then take paid family leave. It's important to note that the total amount of time taken for disability and paid family leave cannot exceed 26 weeks in any 52-week period. Employees cannot collect paid family leave benefits while collecting workers' compensation benefits for a total disability. Employees who are on a reduced earning schedule may still be eligible for benefits. Now let's discuss how you can help get the word out and the resources available to assist you in doing so. New York State has numerous resources healthcare providers can use and share with their patients, including content for newsletter or other mailings, webinars or live in-person presentations, fact sheets, a paid family leave graphic that can be added to websites to link to the paid family leave website, and paid family leave posters, free of charge, that providers can request and display in offices where services are offered. Complete details on New York paid family leave can be found on the New York State Paid Family Leave website at paidfamilyleave.newyork.gov. New York has also set up a toll-free helpline at 844-337-6303 for assistance with any additional questions that you may have. The helpline is operational Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Also, if you or your networks are not already subscribed for email updates on paid family leave, you can subscribe by clicking Get Updates on the bottom of the Paid Family Leave homepage. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss New York's landmark paid family leave with you. We hope you are as excited as we are for this important benefit. We will now use the rest of our time to take your questions.
Thank you, Tiffany. We're now going to begin the question and answer period of today's presentation. As a reminder, please use the chat feature to send us your questions. I will read your questions out loud and Courtney will be responding. You may hear some brief silences throughout the Q&A as we are reading the questions you provided. Give us a few moments to review what has come in now and we will get back to you shortly. Okay, our first question here. For patients who give birth, are they all eligible for 10 weeks off regardless of the mode of delivery? So, for example, C-section versus vaginal birth.
So there's kind of two things there. The first is, so paid family leave can only be taken for someone else. So the mode of birth is irrelevant for paid family leave. So if the employee is eligible for paid family leave and they want to take it for bonding leave, then yes, they're eligible for 10 weeks, you know, assuming that they haven't used any in the last 52 weeks or disability or anything like that. But the eligibility, the mode of delivery does not matter for paid family leave. It could matter for statutory disability, but not paid family leave.
Okay, our next question here, if a patient only provides a disability form from their employer, should I recommend them also requesting a PFL-4 form to get them the appropriate benefits?
So if the patient is only trying to take statutory disability, they cannot take paid family leave at the same time. So PFL-4 form isn't going to help them because two things. First, you can't take statutory disability and paid family leave at the same time. And second, you can't take PFL for your own serious health condition. So if they're taking disability for example, for delivering a baby, they're not going to be able to take PFL at that same time if they're also taking disability. Feel free to mention, though, that if they want to take PFL and they're eligible for it, they might be able to take that too, and then they can get the forms. It would be the PFL-1 and PFL-2 if they're taking bonding leave, and they may want to take it after, but you can't take statutory disability and PFL at the same time.
Our next question here, can the OB provider complete the necessary paperwork for bonding leave, or does the pediatrician need to complete it?
So for bonding leave, there is no paperwork necessarily for the healthcare provider to complete. It's just documentation. So a healthcare provider could provide documentation of the birth or due date, and that's listed in more detail on the PFL-1 and PFL-2 forms. But for bonding leave, it's not the same as caring for a family member with a serious health condition, where the healthcare provider actually needs to certify a serious health condition. So there's kind of two things there. For bonding leave, though, there's no form that the healthcare provider has to fill out. It would just be the documentation, and the employee would request that documentation.
Our next question, can a mother take disability and then take FMLA and then take paid family leave consecutively?
So the statute talks about FMLA, available FMLA, and PFL for the same qualifying event are going to be taken concurrently unless the employer expressly permits otherwise. So generally speaking, unless the employer expressly says that it's okay, FMLA and PFL for the same qualifying event are going to be taken at the same time, meaning concurrently, not consecutively. If someone is taking disability, it's possible that the employer could designate that time as FMLA as well. The board doesn't have jurisdiction over federal law, and we're not experts on FMLA, but my understanding is that in many cases, disability and FMLA are run concurrently. And then, as I said, PFL and FMLA for the same qualifying event can be run concurrently. So generally speaking, FMLA, I think in most cases, is going to be run at the same time of these benefits.
Okay, at this point, I don't see any additional questions. Just as a reminder, if you do want to send us your questions, to hover over that WebEx tab at the top of your screen and click on chat. I'll give everyone just a couple more minutes in case you're in the process of typing your questions now.
So I just want to go over quickly just kind of the healthcare provider's role. There isn't a specific time frame that you need to complete the PFL-4, but I just want to remind everyone that employees have 30 days from the beginning of leave to apply for benefits before they risk actually losing benefits. So timely completion of the form is really critical, and healthcare providers play a really important role in making sure that employees don't lose benefits because they don't timely apply.
So we did have one additional question come in. How do you get to 26 weeks?
So I'm not sure if you're asking about eligibility or if you're asking about disability and paid family leave, so I will just go over both. So for eligibility, employees who regularly work 20 or more hours per week become eligible after 26 consecutive weeks of employment with their employer. So it's just that, 26 weeks in a row of employment with a covered employer, and then they would become eligible. If you're asking about for disability and paid family leave, that is a statutory cap, so it's in the law, and that says that no employee can take more than 26 combined weeks of statutory disability and paid family leave in a 52-week period. So if somebody in the last 52 weeks has taken 26 weeks of disability and or paid family leave, then that's the total amount of leave that they can take for the 52-week period. So it's just a combined cap for disability and paid family leave of 26 weeks.
Our next question here, so do mothers fill out all 3 forms or just one?
So there are at least 2 forms that you're going to fill out if you're taking paid family leave. So the PFL-1 is the general request for paid family leave. So anytime someone is taking paid family leave, they're going to fill that out. And then depending on the type of leave they're taking, there's different forms. So if they're taking bonding leave, they're going to fill out the PFL-2. But if they're taking leave to care for a family member with a serious health condition, the PFL-3 and PFL-4 also have to be filled out. So that would be 3 forms. It just depends on the type of leave that someone is taking. So that will just be kind of just to go over generally things that wouldn't be included for caring for a family member with a serious health condition are things like the common cold or routine orthodontia or things like that would generally not be included as a serious health condition. But if complications arise and then they meet that definition, then they may qualify, but just generally speaking, they don't qualify.
Okay, another question that just came in, is the PFL-2 valid for 1 year from delivery or 1 year from signing?
So what we were talking about with the form being valid for a year was actually the PFL-3, which is like a HIPAA form. But the PFL-2, the qualifying event for bonding is the leave must be taken and completed within 1 year of the child's life or placement for adoption or foster care. But for our purposes, it's generally, we're talking about bonding because there was a new baby born, and that the qualifying event is only the first year of the child's life. So it doesn't actually really have anything to do with the PFL-2. It's in the statute, it says you can take bonding leave during the first year of the child's life or placement for adoption or foster care.
So it looks like that is all the questions that we have right now. Thank you to Courtney and Tiffany, and thank you everyone on the line for joining us today. Again, if you think of anything additional after this session ends, resources are available on the Paid Family Leave website, and that is up on your screen. And the helpline is also available for additional information and assistance, and that phone number is also up on your screen. If you haven't already, please sign up to receive Paid Family Leave news straight to your inbox. To sign up, visit the Paid Family Leave website, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the home page, and click the Get Updates button. We also distribute paid family leave information via our social media channels, so please follow the Workers' Compensation Board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We thank you again for your interest in paid family leave and hope you have a great afternoon.